good evening. I just want to show you some work I've done previously on plastics and ceramics for ballistic research. So let's take all this junk out of the box and I'll tell you all about it. First things first, don't mess around with this sort of thing. It's a great way of getting hurt, and I am not going to be responsible if you hurt yourself. However, let's have a look at this. This is 2.4 millimeter thick polycarbonate. So that's just a random, what is that, 357 Magnum slug lying around. This is polycarbonate sheet. As you can see, 357, what a shock, it goes straight through it. There was a piece of 5 millimeter thick perspex attached to the front of this when I tested this one. As you can see, the effect was much more ragged because the perspex is quite hard and is broken up. And the same with this. This was a single tile and some perspex as well. And you can see from the large dent that that's what's happened there. So perspex is really interesting material. Very hard, not very flexible. This is polycarbonate. This is not quite as hard, but very, very flexible. 2.2 long rifle, 36 grain with 0.2 inch thick acrylic on the front, no penetration. You can see the polycarbonate is well deformed. 2.2 long rifle, 36 grain from a really acute angle with nothing else, still goes through. In fact, you can see where it struck it, it just bends the plastic out of the way. Another very acute shot, still goes through. 357 exit, oh that's because that was the other way around on there, and 357 plus perspex again. So in a nutshell, simple bit of perspex is surprisingly strong, but in of itself has relatively little ballistic value. Let's have a look at the other plastics. Let's put these here. Again, this is 2.4 millimeter thick polycarbonate. This is good quality polycarbonate as well. You know, nothing is stopping even 2.2 long rifle. Let's put that up at the top of the screen there so people can keep it for a reference. Piece 2, these were layered up. Okay, so went through one piece, went through another piece. This is the third thickness. So when these were put together, these fit flush, and now they're deformed from shooting. They don't fit flush anymore. So all told, 2.4, 2.4, 2.4, what's that, 7.2 millimeters of polycarbonate. All this shooting was done at about 10 meters. No penetration at all. Can't get the pencil in there at all. Still smooth on the backside there. So that did work. That surprised me, to be frank. 7 millimeters polycarbonate there. Let's put these over the top of the screen here. Layer 4. So it wasn't just that, there was a fourth layer and even a fifth layer. You can just, if I wiggle the camera in the light a little bit there, you can just see layer 5 slightly deformed. Layer 4, much more so. So when these were all layered together, say 6th layer, no deformation. And these are all layered up. And then just a sample shot on the 6th one there. So although that 7.2 millimeters was enough on its own, and I didn't repeat it just as the 3, 6 layers put together, so 6 times 2.4 there, was sufficient to stop it to the extent of 0 deformation on the back of the 6th piece. In fact, just running my finger along the back of piece 5 there, I can barely feel swell. So that, to me, was quite an interesting test of proof of some common plastic. Polycarbonate is pretty easy to get hold of. You can purchase it in any hardware store. Next up were the other samples I was mentioning. So we have a specimen piece of acrylic, a specimen piece of polycarbonate, and a specimen piece of perspex. Yeah, we're going to see all those. First up, piece of perspex. This was mounted on 2mm polycarbonate visor. That's what this material is. 2.2 long rifle, 36 grain. This was at 20 yards. I apologize, I said 10 meters before. This did penetrate all the way through. So this is completely open. That's just tape holding it in place. So that shouldn't really shock anyone, but this was a good little test because perspex has been used in the past, like on aircraft and things like that, for their windows. Increasing the thickness a little bit, adding some acrylic to the front of it. So here we have an acrylic perspex laminate with polycarbonate. Again, I had complete penetration. I'd only clipped the end of that. Not my usual accuracy, I must say. I'd have gone for the middle, but I suspect if I'd gone for the middle, this would all have just shattered apart. So you can see these hard plastics all shattered and broke up. 2.2 long rifle, 36 grain again, 20 yards. I like the 2.2 long rifle. It's a good substitute for bullet fragment tests. 0.2 inch acrylic. Here we've got 4 layers. So we have acrylic on polycarbonate. Again, no use. Certainly less effective than just the polycarbonate on its own. So acrylic not really working out very well there as a plastic in equivalent terms. And although the top here fell off, this was just another sample piece. You can see it's held together with very high-tech tape. And at the back here, you can finally see that with 5 layers and that's perfect, 6 layers, finally the 5th layer just shattered and none of it transferred to the 6th. So this, as perspex and acrylic, substantially less effective on its own than just polycarbonate. Let's put that one over here. So what then of ceramics, as we're talking about simple things? This is a bathroom tile. This was 7 cents. Onto the back of this is a single piece of polycarbonate, single piece of perspex, 2.5mm thick perspex. At 10 meters, this took 2 rounds from 357 Magnum, 156 grain. And as you can see, that provided 0 protection. This one actually managed to miss, hit the edge of the tile and avoided the perspex. And this one went straight through the perspex as well. So, not a success, single tile. So, increasing the thickness a little bit. Excuse the rustling sound, sorry, that's the bags that keep these in so we don't get dust and bits of crap everywhere. I should probably be wearing gloves, some of these bits are quite sharp. This is the next sample piece. 2 bathroom tiles, each backed with plastic. In fact, this is polycarbonate plastic backing. This again is 357 Magnum at 10 yards, single round, no penetration at all. If I get my high-tech spiky pokey thing, nothing, can't get through there at all. Quite where that has stopped in here, I don't know. I could probably cut my way in. I guess in the comments you can ask me to cut my way in. I might do that at some point. That could be interesting. As I say, this was just an old test just for some simple indication because I was getting some mixed results and I had a project ongoing at the time about plastics. What's the thickness of that? That would indicate to me that that's basically gone through this polycarbonate and it's finally broken up on this last tile. I mean, the last tile is shattered, but there's no penetration on the back at all. That's not exactly practical in terms of weight, but that is interesting, I thought. So that's 2 7-cent bathroom tiles and about $1 worth of polycarbonate. That did indeed stop the 357 Magnum. Now, what about rifles, I hear you ask? Well, maybe I don't hear you ask. Well, we're going to need something a little more substantial than that. This is test number 3 of the bathroom tile technique. And this was, once more, polycarbonate tile laminate. This was shot from 10 meters with 762 by 39, 136 grain. In fact, if you look in there, you can actually see, see if I can zoom in on the camera for you. You can actually see the back of the jacket. In fact, this is probably better for pointing at it. It's firmly wedged in there. So this was 3 bathroom tiles thick. As we can see in cross section here, the outer tile has all but exploded. We can see just in here, this first polycarbonate backing has been penetrated, but it's surprising to me how much of the round has actually stayed in this outer layer. If we get the camera in here just well enough, it's hard to see. I don't really want to cut this open because this was so much fun. But the second tile has exploded out as well, despite the high-tech duct tape around it. Crushed the second one. I can't actually see any penetration of this second polycarbonate layer. It has certainly broken this third tile, and this was all original where it split the duct tape. It's an indication of force. And that last piece of polycarbonate there appears completely unharmed as well. So not exactly a practical way to provide protection, but it does work. These weren't exactly expensive ceramic plates. And I thought that was quite an interesting little test. You know, this, if I was going to repeat this again later, I would probably get some better quality tiles. These are just bathroom tiles. These are, let me dig out a little piece. It's quite sharp in there. And this is just bathroom tile, shiny face out, because that's the enameled surface. That's quite hard. This is just cheap porcelain tiles for a bathroom. If I was repeating this again, something like bone china, which is harder and less prone to shatter, would be better. Maybe a thicker piece, some thicker polycarbonate to go behind it. I reckon with a bit of experiment and obviously some better duct taping, could probably get this level of performance out of this double thickness of tile. So once more, this was a simple, cheap, rather dirty experiment, having a look very quickly at some ballistic properties for some plastics and ceramics for some work I was doing. Do not play around with this sort of stuff yourself. If you get hurt, that is entirely on you. This is not suitable for making armor out of. This is just for some educational purposes, from my perspective, for some book work, which will become apparent hopefully later this year. So that's it for now. Thank you very much. Please leave any comments. And as I say, if someone really feels strongly enough they want these all cut open, I'll do another video on that. Just say so if you do. All right. Thank you very much. You have a good night.